Welcome in, everyone, to Dogs Down South. It is officially day one. Day one of the offseason. We are coming right off of the national championship game being played last night, obviously between Indiana and Miami. And Indiana won that game, and conversation strike up, right? And we've already heard it today. We've already heard it, and a lot of stuff being said about Kirby Smart and Kirk Cignetti. And is Kirk Cignetti the new? Is he the new GOAT? Is he the new thing to chase after? And we're going to talk about it. It's a part of our hot topics as we open tonight. And what a fitting backdrop to the season, right? You see two teams that were not in the SEC. Obviously, Big Ten versus ACC. I think if a lot of people could have looked at this end of the season game, I don't know how many people would have had these two teams in it. And I definitely don't know if just by checking off your boxes alone in your bracket, if you would have Miami making it through, especially when they barely made it in. I mean, to think that some people actually had Miami not in the playoff, and to go through and to play in that game, and as Mario Cristobal mentioned, Mario Cristobal mentioned we were one play away from winning that game, and I don't know, man. We got a block punt, false start call, and a couple of blunders that, who knows? I mean, Miami might have won that game, if they played clean. But that's the story of college football, right? And I think that's the story of Indiana this year. I think it's the story of playing clean football. And I don't know if you can look back and go, did Indiana, just beat a bunch of people so badly, or, and were they the best team in college football? I mean, I'm sure people would be arguing right now to be like, well, Ted, they won the national championship. They had the Heisman Trophy, quarterback on their team who showed Heisman moments in the national championship game. And I get it all, but I don't know. We're going to get into it in a minute, but I don't know if you can put him up there with Kirby Smart yet. I think there was a day where you couldn't put Kirby Smart up there yet with Nick Saban either, but now you would look at some of those similarities and go, they're kind of one and the same. But that caps off the season. It brings it to a close. I think for Dog fans, it's nice to kind of have a signature ending, because we just felt like there was things going on that we should have been a part of. But without that being said, it all happens for a reason that way. And the big news out of Miami now is you look at I think Carson Beck is on my first bubble of hot topics. I really didn't want to talk a lot about Carson Beck, but it just needs to be addressed, man. Like it really needs to be addressed, because I talked to a lot of people yesterday, and people were like, man, who do you want to win the game? And I'm like, part of me looks at it and goes, well, I like Miami to win, because this is all you're going to hear is the Big Ten is, the kings of college football, as we should be, and so on and so forth. And part of me wants to, kind of be like, I, I don't know, man. Can we talk about the strength of schedule? Can we talk about how, the SEC just beats up on each other every year? And I don't know, man. Like, I just want to, I don't know. Is there an answer anywhere in college football where some of these conferences, like adding a conference game, or do you intentionally do some things like basketball where you have like an ACC Big Ten part of the year, ACC SEC Big Ten part of the year? I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I know it's pretty cool in basketball, because we get a chance to see some of these conferences go head to head with each other before the end of the year and before the big dance. And I think it makes the playoffs more interesting, because it kind of, looks at fans and goes, well, I mean, I get that you got the national champion, and believe me, 16-0, that's something to be celebrated. And kudos to Kurt Cignetti. Congratulations. I'm not taking away anything from Indiana, but I don't know if you're there yet. Enjoy the fact that you just won your first national championship since, like, I don't know, is it the 1930s? I don't want to break into the 1800s. That's a bad call, but 1930s is what I'm hearing. But the big storyline was, I don't know if it was as much Kurt Signetti and Carson Beck as it was. I think we need to look at Carson Beck and, like, what was his demeanor, right? So he throws the interception. Immediately you hear about the wide receiver with his head down in the room, and he's obviously distraught. He tells the story of, I let the team down. I should have been able to make that play happen. I didn't even know the ball was coming. So I don't know if they weren't on the same page, but I don't know if it was a play call and it wasn't on the same page. But you feel like you haven't seen Miami, at least in the postseason, you haven't seen them that much off page per se as they were in that play. And you wonder, like, as we've talked about with Kirby all year long, is when the plays matter and when the game's on the line, like, is the right play call happening? Are we 100% that this is what we're going to be calling and we're in the right scheme to get the job done? And so, you got to think Mario Cristobal in Miami had that right, right? So is this another Carson Beck fitting ending to a career that kind of ends like the game ended, right? It ended with a pick, what could have been. He has the opportunity. The stage is set. He can go, 70 plus yards with um, a stamp on his career that is nothing but victorious. And for dog fans, will be something that we have to put up with for a long time, because they're going to look and continue to say, "Well, man, was Carson Beck really the problem last year? He went into Miami and he won a national championship." But I think what you're going to continue to see, even with this ending, is the fact that um, I don't know about Carson Beck being the problem or not the problem, but I will tell you that all year long, Miami didn't ask a lot of Carson Beck. I think Miami was able to develop a run game that was elite this year with Fletcher and a couple of other backs, and that offensive line is there's tons of NFL talent on that offensive line, and some of it's coming back. Um, Receivers that were electric this year, a defense that was led by a ton of talent that's going to go on to the NFL. They didn't ask him to do a lot, but they asked him in the national championship finally to go, look, go win the game. And is that really what needs to be talked about Carson Beck when it was time to put up or shut up? Did he come through? I know for Georgia there were some times where he had the opportunity to put up or shut up, and he did. But I don't think that's what hurt him at Georgia. I think it was more of the everyday grind, the everyday attention to detail. But those seem to be the things that possibly maybe they didn't connect with Miami and Carson Beck when it came down to winning the ACC, going to the ACC championship, being on the bubble for the college football playoff and getting in, maybe more based off of their run game and their defense, and their dependency on that, and their maybe the committee's uh, understanding that that was what was going to carry them through the playoff is what got them in. But needless to say, at the end of the day, it came down to Carson Beck's arm. And all he's going to say is it's the best decision he ever made by leaving and going. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be right out. Like, and I think I'm truthful about this. A lot, a lot goes into the character of a player, right? And there was a lot of success. And Georgia's season ended early this year, and Miami's moved on. But I think to finish the drill and to get where you want to go as far as winning it all, I think you have to have immense character at that quarterback position, immense leadership, incredible leadership is a better word. And I think that when it came down to it, that's what finishes the drill, and that's what finishes the game, and that's what makes those comebacks look like they do. And I think that's why you continue to see this year in moments where Georgia called the numbers of players to win ball games for them in the last quarter or the last 5 minutes, or to make big plays in big times. I think that's where Gunnar Stockton's character comes in. I think that's where Chauncey Billups and Nate Frazier and KJ Bolden and Raylan Wilson and CJ Allen, all these people, I think that's where their name comes to mind because of the high character. But where you see the flourishes in what Carson Beck had to deal with last night was when the game was over, he just continues to look like a guy that just doesn't care. He continues to look like a guy that didn't let his team down. He's more mad that he's done with his career. He's more mad about, if I hit that touchdown, does my NFL draft stock go up? He's a guy that's driving a Lamborghini to class every day. Oh, I'm sorry, the class that he doesn't attend every day, because he made it known he hasn't gone to class in 2 years to all the sports media out there. And I don't know. I don't know. Would you rather make it to the national championship to lose like that because of the possibility of, it has nothing to do with arm strength, but the character of your quarterback and maybe the connectivity? I mean, I saw a lot of that. Like, I saw a lot of, when Carson Beck was at Georgia, his disconnection from his receivers. That we saw at the end of the Miami game was something that Georgia fans saw throughout Carson Beck's career. Not being on the same page, routes being ran, throws being thrown, things just not connecting. That's the Carson Beck we know. And Tony and some of those other receivers can't bail you out of that stuff. It's just connection that you have or you don't. But he sounds like a guy that went to Miami and continued to drive his Lamborghini around, maybe adding a couple of nice cars as well. Took his $5 million. And I don't know. Is Miami if Miami's any better for the future? This is a team that's going to lose a pretty good amount next year, but they're in the spotlight right now because they're going to go get Mensah from Duke and pay him $6.5 million and put Mensah's sister into school with a scholarship full ride and pay off his NIL at Duke and spend about $10.5 million, and is going to continue to make a mockery of college football and NIL and the portal. And so kudos to Miami. I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of glad you didn't win that game. I'm a little less butthurt over Cignetti and his, I guess, per se stage he's taken than Mario Cristobal and, the phony Miami Hurricanes. So I just think it doesn't look, it's not a good look for the sport. It's not NIL, and they continue to play into it. So, but the season's over. Congratulations to Indiana, and it's a fitting ending. Not that I'm wishing bad on Carson Beck, but he could learn a few things from his last few years at the last two schools he was at. I'm interested to see how those interviews go for NFL teams when he gets those questions. I'm wondering. I think he's going to see really quickly that talent alone is not going to get him anywhere in the NFL. His character means a lot as well. So speaking of NIL, it's on my second hot topic bubble conversation for the night. NIL is ripping college football apart. It would be stupid to say that this should be the hottest topic on the NCAA committee's radar. It's absolutely atrocious what's happening right now. All stages, right? So you look at this process, you look at NIL, and you look at how this window opens. Thank God we made a decision about not having two of these, right? This portal opens, right? And the portal is it's just such a lie. It really is. It's such a lie. It's based off of money and opportunity. But the money and the opportunity don't benefit anything but the player, right? This is still built off of the fact that you're playing for teams that represent universities, and this is deep, rich tradition and heritage at some of these universities. Georgia fans know this. They feel this way before the NIL era, and I know it's 2026 and this is what we're in, but let me just venture into the fact of these players understanding that well before they came into the sport, there was Hall of Fame NFL players and Hall of Fame college football players that look at them in the portal and are laughing at them. Right? Now, do I look at these Georgia players and blame them for what they're taking advantage of? No, not. I'm not looking at any player and blaming them for taking the opportunity to get the money that the NCAA scrubs have allowed. They've allowed this sport to become a mockery, and it's a joke. And the NCAA needs to be they just need to be banned. They need to be taken out of college football. period. It's a joke and it's not laughable. It's pretty serious because the sport that I love and the sport that all college football fans love is being driven by the very thing that made people love college football more than the NFL, and that's money. I used to answer the question every single day. Why do you like why do you not keep up with the NFL? Why do you like college football over the NFL? Because there's more heart, there's more guts, there's more grit, there's more blood, sweat, and tears. They're playing for more than a paycheck. And here we are, eerily close to seeing that happen again. Eerily close. And to me, it's just an extreme joke. And I'm over it. I think when you look at how it's all going, I think it's awkward. I'm sorry, I'm hitting the comments now. What's up, Rich man? How are you, buddy? I can see your comments now. But I think the NIL needs to be revamped immediately. Now, second segment of this conversation, I'm not just going to drag the NIL and not talk about it. I really think that the way to fix the NIL with some immediate things, number one was the portal windows, chopping them down from 2 to 1. Kudos. That was a Captain Obvious moment. Second thing I would say is can we change the window? Like the portal window is happening while teams are still playing football. It just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Now, it's not my job, and I'm sure I could figure it out. I don't have enough time today, but figure out where to put it. Sure. That's a question you ask. Sure. But that's, you know what? There's people that sit in those seats that make a lot of money that are screwing that up, that are literally screwing that up. And so what I would tell you is earn your money and fix what you have created. Second thing I would tell you. Second thing I would tell you is stop allowing each of these players to just jump in and out of the portal. Make it something that makes sense for the university. Make some loyalty happen in what's going on with college football right now. It's what we're here for. It's what college fans are here for. They want some loyalty. Rich man Carson Beck hasn't been in class in 2 years. I know I just mentioned that. It's atrocious. It's part of why NIL is broken. Believe it or not, there are students walking around universities that are paying $50,000 a year for UGA out of state tuition, or in-state tuition is not much cheaper. And they would love the opportunity to be able to put UGA behind their name and where they graduated from. There's a sense of pride behind it. But instead, the NCAA has made it a joke. And so basically it's whatever school would pay them enough money, and that's what ends up on their college, diploma. The University of, I don't really remember. I just know it was the school that gave me $6.5 million. So close these windows down and make them only have 1 year. 1 year. You can transfer one time, 1 year. If I'm at the University of Georgia and I want to go to Auburn, do it. Take the money. Do what you got to do. But when you don't get what you want, you don't get to next year after that go, I'm ready from Auburn. I want to go to Texas Tech. Because I didn't get any playing time at Auburn. I didn't really get to do what I wanted to do. No, you can. You can't get your way, but you can transfer, but you can sit a year. That hurts you. Why? Because now I went to Georgia as a freshman. I didn't get what I wanted. I went to Auburn as a sophomore. Now I didn't get what I wanted as a sophomore, and I got to transfer my junior year to Texas Tech. And there's consequence behind that. Now I gotta wait a year, and now with the possibilities of being able to go to the NFL in the end of my junior year, now I'm sitting here going, I have nothing on tape, and it's my senior year, and now I'm playing at Texas Tech. But you know what? Maybe there will be more of those seniors playing football instead of taking a bag of money and going and sitting the bench for an NFL team. I commend Dante Moore of Oregon. If I got his name wrong, I'm sorry. I know his first name. It's Dante. I commend him. He had the opportunity, and he probably was going to be a top 5 pick. But he decided to come back to Oregon, and he said, "I'm not ready." He said, "I'm not ready to put those skills on display at a high level. I can come back and I can learn one more year and I can better my draft status and use the NIL money for good, right?" Now, granted, you're probably going to say, "Man, did you understand the deal he probably worked out with Oregon and Nike and the school?" And yeah, I get it, I get it. But I don't think he made that decision based off of the money he could make. A top five pick, I don't know if you can compete. NIL can't compete with a top five pick in that signing money. Can't, can't do it. So kudos to him for using it the right way. Make him sit. If you want to transfer, make him sit. Easy, right? If you want to be a Jaden Rashada or a TJ Finley and you're on your seventh school, it would have taken you 13 years to get to that seventh school. Correct, right? Now, some of you probably going to look and be, that's unfair because TJ Finley is trying to find his way. I don't know. After 7 years, man, you might. I just don't know. And I don't, what is the NFL going to see from you? And maybe you're just doing it for one more year. And I get that. I get that, and that's fine. That's the part of this that I'm not seeing. And then the last thing is at the end of the day, the money piece. Sign the dotted line. Sign the dotted line. Sign the contract and actually uphold the contract. Actually uphold the contract. Because why is the contract important? It's the same reason why Trinidad Chambliss right now is probably going to get an extra year of eligibility. Why? I heard it was because of some, I don't quote me on this, but something with a health thing that kept him from being able to play. But maybe what it's being camouflaged behind is it just wasn't his turn yet. There was somebody in front of him that was having a better year. So you should get that year back. Why? Because you're not good enough to go to the NFL right now? Like, do you know how many quarterbacks would have wished they had one more year because of just how it landed, right? It just landed that way. You think Aaron Murray would have wanted another year? You think Jake Fromm would have wanted another year? You think Georgia would have gave Aaron Murray, Jake Fromm another year? Yeah. You think Stetson Bennett would have wanted another year? I'm sure he could have found a JUCO year that he got screwed around and got another year. We'd love to have Stetson Bennett back, right? But he didn't get it. But then Mississippi goes, Ole Miss goes and finds a lawyer from Mississippi, state lawyer from Mississippi, that takes the case, probably is a fan from Ole Miss, and either he'll do one or two things. Either he'll pass it, and Trinidad Chambliss will get another year, or they'll keep it held up in state court so long, like they did with Pavia, that it basically won't get ruled upon until after the football season. So guess what? He gets a chance to play. It doesn't really matter. It's broken. NIL's broken, and that's just all it is to it. It's ruining college football. So the NCAA should have a reason to fix it and to fix it immediately. Mike Bobo, another hot topic tonight. Mike Bobo is on my list of there's so much stuff going around with Mike Bobo. Um, we have a fan base that is so spoiled, right? I pulled some numbers from Mike Bobo, and Mike Bobo returned to the role he once held from 2007 to 2014 and 23. And in 2023, Bobo was ranked 5th nationally in scoring. He was averaging 40.1 points per game, and averaging over 496 yards of total offense. 2024 dipped to 38th in scoring, 51st in total offense. 51st, right? Still top 50, even though we look at the offense and we know it wasn't what we wanted it to be. Much more pass heavy, less run heavy. And then 25 this year, offense jumps back into contention at the national level. And, Bobo's actually named a Brewell's finalist for top assistant coach and averaging over 400 yards of total offense again, which ranks in the top 16 in the country. He's still on paper. If the UGA fans that hate Bobo weren't on the list, he would still be top 9 among college offensive coordinators as voted on by the media, social media, the press, and just fans all around college football that are Georgia fans that I'm sure that had sense would vote. I think when you look at sometimes at Bobo's offense, I think what he tries to do and what he emphasizes, it's what Kirby wants. And the fact that everybody's looking and going, as long as Glenn Schumann, and as long as Mike Bobo, and I mean, hell, I guess you're going to turn Kirby Smart into there as long as he's, a guy that's at the helm. Georgia's not going to win another national championship. I strongly beg to differ on that. Strongly beg to differ on that. I mean, you could say that about Todd Monken. Everybody wants Todd Monken back, but I don't know if Todd Monken was the reason or not why John Harbaugh is not the coach at Baltimore anymore. I mean, one of the biggest reasons why John Harbaugh left Baltimore was because he didn't want to bring that heat onto Todd Monken. Todd Monken didn't have a great play calling year, and it might be because of you know of injuries and quarterback play, and you name it. I mean, but it wasn't because of the run game. I mean, we all know that the Baltimore Ravens, they have one of the best run games in the NFL. I mean, just give Derrick Henry the damn ball, right? But scoring output still competes nationally very highly. Not as high octane looking. Balance never. I don't think when you look at Indiana, you look at Indiana and they're very balanced, right? Is it the most exciting thing? Well, everybody seemed to think it was at Indiana. Everybody around the world got on the Curt Cignetti train, but Curt Cignetti wants to be balanced, and he is very balanced. Um, I just think when you look at Cignetti this year, you had a good balance of how the system worked well with the players. It fit Mendoza very well, who is a very good talent. But that system might not have fit. I don't know. Uh, Lamar Jackson. It might not have fit Lamar Jackson when he was in college. It might not have fit, Caleb Williams. Some of these players, it might not have been a good fit. So you might not have produced the record, and you might not have produced the stats that you wanted with that. But he's respected. He's still very well respected. His play designs are very well respected. I'm sure I know what the comments are going to be about this. 88 screen passes and bubble passes are not very well respected. But I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of teams and coaches out there that would have killed to have our offense this year, right? Um, would have killed to have been sitting in the playoffs where we were at. And that was due to a run game that was much improved this year, which might I add that I broke it on TikTok before we went live tonight is Stacy Searles has either A, stepped down, or this is Kirby Smart's first move in the new year in trying to get some things that were very obvious decisions that need to be made on the offensive staff and defensive staff. Might be more to come, but has moved into an offensive analyst role, and Phil Rauscher is now the offensive line coach at Georgia. Phil Rauscher brought in a wide zone blocking scheme that could very well be the reason why Georgia was so successful in the run game this year after a very somewhat lackluster year of running the football in 2024, 2025, when Carson Beck was around. And one could say that, that could have been the downfall of why Carson Beck wasn't successful at Georgia, is not having a run game. I have spoken on that many times. But what I will tell you is that I think personally that flash is not always what wins football games. I mean, take Josh Heupel. Josh Heupel is one of the best offensive play callers in college football. A lot of people would be looking, and if he lost his job tomorrow and he was up for an OC role, people would be like, give me Josh Heupel. I want Josh Heupel. But Josh Heupel has not fielded a defense, and everybody would say that the reason why Tennessee last year could not break the college football championship, the college football playoff, is because of the defense. Next thing you know, they go out, they revamp the entire defense, they hire Jim Knowles, they structure the strength and conditioning coach, and they revamp the defense, right? This is an offense that brought in a quarterback last minute that was not very successful anywhere he went, and then comes to Tennessee and breaks multiple records, and the offense was electric. And I think everybody can say that the offense was very electric this year for Tennessee, but they didn't make it anywhere, right? So I think that proves to you that Kirby Smart and the decisions that he's made around offense and defense has put us in the wheelhouse to win, not only as we did the SEC championship, but win the college football playoff and win the national championship. So that's my 2 cents on Bobo. Gonna hop right in. Main part of the pod tonight is based off of I want to venture into 5 players where we've ended the portal season, and I want to talk about 5 players that will significantly change this year's team if they are productive, right? Obviously, you look on both sides of the ball, there's much talent returning on both sides of the ball. I want to keep 4 players out of this, right? This is what will end the pod on tonight. 4 players I'd like to keep out of this conversation. That is Gunnar Stockton, that is Raylan Wilson, that is Nate Frazier, and KJ Bolden. Because I do think when you look at those 4 guys, I think they're going to be key players and key captains per se. And I may even want to add Drew Bobo to that, because they'll be key players that are going to be a part of the leadership team this year for this upcoming season. And so I want to keep them out of it. But I think these are 5 players that I think we must see a huge difference in this year if Georgia is going to not only repeat as SEC champion, but make it farther, get off of that, bye week. I mean, hell, for Georgia fans, maybe you even want to look at this year and go, maybe we just work to get in the playoff this year because we have the hex on top of us of winning the SEC championship, and not being able to get into the national championship for whatever reason, right? So who knows? And a lot will be based off of, and we have the whole offseason to talk about and we tend to do that in the offseason. We break away a little bit from Georgia. We talk about the SEC a little bit more heavy to give everybody a break. And we want to kind of know more about what to look forward to in the SEC in the upcoming season. But I want to talk about 5 players. I'm going to go from 5 to 1. I want to give my honorable mention real quick. My honorable mention, which I think outside of those 4 players we need a lot from, is obviously the return of Ernest Green was huge. This will anchor a line that had a ton of growth last year with Dontrell Glover and Juan Gaston, as well as Drew Bobo. I think we see what the injury to Drew Bobo did to this offensive line, and we see what him coming back this year will mean for this university. It'll mean another year of Malachi Tolliver hunkering down and being able to learn and only get better by playing some key minutes throughout the season. But this offensive line has a chance to be really, really good. And I'm wondering what step it takes ahead of the fact if Kirby has seen some growth with Phil Rauscher. And this is not easy, right? So if he sat down and had a mirror moment, this is the first move of many, maybe, or of none. I think this could be huge for an offensive line that saw immense growth. And I think this is Kirby maybe calling out the reason why. And it's because Phil Rauscher did an incredible job along with Stacey Searles. But you got to wonder, is that call being made because he feels like it was more based off of Phil Rauscher and less of Stacey Searles? Or maybe it was just time to Stacey Searles take a back seat to that. And one thing I will tell you before I jump in, I do have one portal player in this, but I do think the portal was very, very key for Georgia this year. But I wrote this down. Sometimes the biggest wins in the portal, we look at these classes. We read these stories about, what were the best portal classes? Who had the best portal classes? Rank them 10 to 1. And everybody looks at that. But I'm wondering if what people aren't missing with Georgia is that maybe the biggest win was keeping your own players out of the transfer portal. And Georgia saw 14 go in and 9 come back from it. When I say come back, 9 players that we were able to get through the portal to replace those guys or replace spots of need in the upcoming season. And we talked about it on the last episode I talked about it with Fish, which Fish, shout out, man. Hope you feel better. We're supposed to join tonight, but came down with the flu, so hope you feel better. But I'm wondering if keeping these players out of the portal this year was the bigger win than going out and winning the portal and all these big time gets, right? I think one of the biggest things that Kirby Smart did during December was retain this roster. There was deals being worked on. I said it last week. Nate Frazier wasn't going anywhere. He wasn't going anywhere. I think he was just wanting to rework what he thought he deserved. He's a guy that we feel like has been with us for a long time because he came in and had immediate he added an immediate spark to this offense. Even coming in late. So we feel like he's been here forever, and he's just going to be starting his junior year next year, which we hope is a huge year for Nate Frazier, and hope he's healthy. But honorable mention, I'm gonna give you the 3 names of honorable mention, then I'll break the other ones down a little bit more, but I have Drew Bobo. I think Drew Bobo was missed tremendously in the in the college football playoff. And I think that was something that was keyed on a lot. And I think that's gonna be an honorable mention. Get that maybe it should be in the top 5 because I think that was a huge part of the reason why Ole Miss was successful about knocking Gunnar Stockton off his routine. Getting some of those balls batted down at the line of scrimmage was a lot due to that up the middle pressure. I have Ernest Green on here. I think that's a huge get back. Is I think his growth when he was healthy and he was injury free and playing at his highest level. Ernest Green is an unstoppable tackle in the SEC and in the country. I think this will only help Georgia, and this will only help his draft status. He could very easily, along with Drew Bobo, be a first or second round pick next year by coming back. And then it leads into my top 5. So 5 for me is Juan Gaston. I think this is a no brainer in one of my top 5 who I think if we're going to get back to the college football playoff and win the SEC and be a national championship, first off, be in it and contend for it. Juan Gaston has to replace Monroe Freeling at left tackle. I think that's where he will go. Maybe not. Maybe he'll go to right, and maybe Ernest Green will move to left. We'll see how that all pans out. But either way, whether you're blind side or strong side, tackles in the SEC and in college football are very, very important. So we have to have Juan Gaston have a great year. We got to make sure that in the offseason we keep him at a great playing weight. We get him stronger. We get him more in tune to the system and even more comfortable with the blocking schemes. And if Kirby Smart's making this decision about the offensive line because he feels like that is where the most immense growth can come from by that change in the decision. But we also don't know is a not to change the subject, but Stacy Searles has been an offensive coordinator in the past. What do we, maybe he's getting in that room with Bobo. Maybe it's a 2-part series where he can possibly feels like he can do some things to help Mike Bobo on that side of the coin with the offensive play calling, and maybe it's a win-win. We'll never know. We won't know until we see this offense and see this offensive line clicking in the first 2-3 games of the season next year. But I think Juan Gaston is my 5, and I think that's huge for this big guy. My 4th one is actually my transfer portal guy. I think Khalil Barnes. We need him to come in and sew up a big. It was a big question mark for us on the other side of KJ Bolden this year in the safety position. I think Khalil Barnes comes in and makes immediate impact. He's got 1 year of eligibility. He would have been a starter for Clemson this year and a pretty good defense at Clemson. I think you got a big guy who can cover, who can get in the box and tackle, and who is smart. And I think this is a move to seal up the things we saw against some of the exposure early in the season and late in the season with some of these quarterbacks that do a really good job of leading receivers, of throwing over the top, of getting us into the right play. I mean, the younger guys, it's just so important to have guys that are seasoned back there, and we got beat a lot of times this year just flat out being in the wrong play call or just not knowing what our role was. And so Khalil Barnes needs to give us some stability back there with losing Ja'Cory Thomas. Obviously, a lot of people going to the portal. And obviously, like T. Rob was saying, we got some guys back there that just can't play up to the standard of Georgia football. It's a talent thing, right? It's just a talent thing. My third is I'm going to go back to the secondary, and I'm going to name Ellis Robinson in here. I think it's very key to see him continue to improve, and be a lockdown cornerback at Georgia is going to be huge. Dalen Everett, him evolving into that role was huge for Georgia, right? And I think with that being said, you kind of could put a 1A and a 1B on this because the continued growth of DeMello Jones needs to be huge as well. I think you look at this and right off the cuff, I think we did some portal stuff, but I think you look and you kind of assume that these two guys will be coming back with the most impact at the corner position. And so I don't know. I just feel like that this guy has to be huge for us at the cornerback position. They put a lot of emphasis on defense, and I think it's I think it just has to be a position. It has to be a continued growth for us with Ellis. Hopping back on some comments, Rich, man, you put last year we couldn't stop a stunt. I agree, man. And it could be this could be the main reason. This could be, Kirby really diving into that and the interview process. And they're gonna look for, I mean, you gotta also look at it and go, even though the run game was successful, like, what does pass block scheme look like? Can we get to a point where Gunner, I mean, do we feel like there was times where Gunner was, maybe he just needed more time, right? He just felt like he was running for his life most of the time. And you got to understand too, just because there was mass improvement in the run game doesn't mean there was great improvement in the pass defense. And I do think that was still a question mark for me. There were times where Gunner was taking hits that, or there was times he would have taken hits that if he didn't have the legs and the trust, which sometimes that didn't happen on our line, is he would bail out of there way quicker than he needed to. And I think what Kirby's saying is we got to trust all parts of the offensive line this year if we're going to be back in the national championship. My second guy on this list is I think we need to have that set the tone guy that can get to the quarterback. You've seen it in the past, right? You've seen those guys that can go get the quarterback from Georgia, and I can name them until the cows come home. But for me, this guy next year is Chris Cole. We have to be able to open up, and I'm excited about the defensive line and the work we've done on the D line and the players that we brought back. But we got to be able to get. I think Chris Cole is the next freak athlete that can get to the quarterback and be a Jalen Walker. And he's just a guy that I think could cause an Adam Anderson. He's built kind of like him. I think he can cause a lot of controversy in that backfield. We need him to. We need him to. Getting Raylan Wilson back, who a guy that reminds me a lot of CJ Allen, who's going to be a great run stopper for us, a great guy in the middle to make sure that we're in the right play calls and the defense is where they need to be. That was key. But letting him loose is going to be huge. The last one on my list, and this might be a shocker to some people as we end the pod tonight, Talon Taylor. Talon Taylor's my top guy. Why? Because I waited because I put this guy on honorable mention, but Isaiah Canyon from Georgia Tech, the portal guy, it's always is you can't really put that one on the top 5 because you don't know. You hope he's going to mesh well. You hope he's going to come in and be a Georgia guy. You hope the character is going to line up with what Georgia saw, and he can add as much to that room and to that locker room as Zach Branch did, right? He has the ability to. He has the athleticism. He has the height. He has the catch radius. Everything. But he's an honorable mention for me. But the real thing is Talon Taylor, 5-star wide receiver, from here in Georgia, who we put a lot of emphasis on playing time this year. And if he didn't get hurt, I think he would have played a lot for Georgia this year because we see him as a person that could possibly take over for the production that Zach Branch left behind. I will say it again. I think Talon Taylor is the guy we have to look at this year as growing and maturing as a sophomore and becoming the playmaker that Zach Branch was for us last year. I'm making the call. It's a big thing, but I do think as Talon Taylor goes this year, so will the Georgia offense. So, man, it's the first day of the offseason. There's so much on tap for spring football right around the corner in March. It will be here before you know it. As soon as the dust settles and the snow in some areas fades away, spring football will kick up. We'll get to see who's coming on, who's doing what. No portal after that part of the year. And the last thing tonight is some people are asking, is Georgia still done? You've heard things about Caden Lee from Ole Miss. You've heard things going on everywhere. I think Georgia's done. I think Georgia's done. I would be shocked if they got Caden Lee from Ole Miss. I think that wide receiver room is full. I think they've put their cards where they wanted. Isaiah Canyon was what they wanted to go out there and get. But I think between London Humphreys, between Talon Taylor, C.J. Wiley, and some of these young guys and some of these freshmen coming in, they're banking on the development of these guys to be huge for next year. So I'm looking forward to it. And we're going to talk a lot about every single part of this team throughout the offseason. We'll have plenty of time to do it. But yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining. If you haven't already done so, make sure Do us a favor, hop over to TikTok, Dogs Down South. Make sure you drop a follow. We're going to be going live over there much, much more. YouTube, Dogs Down South. Man, would love it if you could get the podcast to 1,000 followers over there on YouTube. And then Spotify, Dogs Down South, Apple Podcasts. 24 hours later, we are on our 94th episode. So that means within the next few months, we'll be cranking out our 100th episode over on Apple Podcasts. So make sure you go like and follow us and support the podcast and the pages. Facebook's Dogs Down South, where you can find us as well. But thank you for the support. It is day one of the off season, dog fans, and already looking forward to 2026, 2027. So hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Talk to you soon. And as always on Dogs Down South, go Dogs.